What if the very thing sabotaging your reality isn't your mindset, but the emotion you keep avoiding? You can visualize, you can affirm, you can assume the wish fulfilled. But if a hidden part of you is still carrying grief, fear, or shame, your manifestations will always reflect that state. Not the scene you imagine, but the one you silently embody. This is what Neville Goddard hinted at when he said, "Feeling is the secret." Not any feeling, but the true one running beneath the surface. Here's the paradox. The more you run from an emotion, the more power it gains over your life. It becomes the silent architect of your patterns, your relationships, your financial reality. But the moment you turn and face it, really feel it, you shift everything. In this video, you're going to understand why feeling isn't the problem. It's the path, and how ignoring it is the real resistance keeping your desire at arm's length. This isn't just another video on manifestation. It's an invitation to reclaim the part of you that's been running the show without your awareness, because once you bring that part into the light, you don't just create a new reality, you become someone who was never trapped to begin with. There are emotions we don't even admit to ourselves. A quiet grief tucked behind a smile, a buried anger disguised as sarcasm, fear pretending to be control. And while we try to stay positive, repeat affirmations or visualize abundance, these unspoken emotions keep directing the script from behind the scenes. They don't go away just because we ignore them. They become the quiet ruler of our state of being. People repeat patterns and call it fate. They say, "It's just how I am," or "Life's always been like this." But what they don't realize is that these cycles are the subconscious creation of unacknowledged pain. According to Neville Goddard's teachings, your inner state creates your reality. And if that state is shaped by what you're unwilling to feel, no amount of mental imagery can override the emotional signal you're truly sending. Trying to manifest from a place of hidden pain is like driving with the brakes on. The conscious mind may be saying abundance, but the emotional body is still whispering lack, hurt, or not enough. Before you can assume the wish fulfilled, you have to acknowledge who's assuming. Sometimes it's a version of you still stuck in a scene that was never fully felt. Avoidance doesn't silence what we fear, it feeds it. Every time we push down an uncomfortable emotion, thinking we're staying strong or rising above it, we're actually giving that emotion more power in the dark. What you resist doesn't dissolve, it builds pressure. Like a balloon underwater, the deeper you push it down, the stronger it wants to surface. This is why pretending everything is fine often leads to emotional outbursts we didn't see coming. The shadow isn't some mystical concept, it's the collection of everything we reject or hide about ourselves. Shame we never spoke of, rage we learned to swallow. The grief we were told was too much. And here's the catch. The more we avoid these parts, the more they begin to influence our choices, relationships, and even the assumptions we bring into scene work. It's not just emotional, it's creative sabotage. In the framework of conscious creation, the power of assumption depends on clarity of being. But if you're unknowingly assuming from a fractured inner space, you're planting seeds in tainted soil. The law of assumption isn't about forcing a new belief, it's about embodying a new inner truth. And truth can't thrive where the shadow is running the show in silence. You can close your eyes and imagine the most beautiful scene, wealth, love, peace. But if deep down there's unprocessed fear or guilt, that emotion will bleed through the image like ink in water. It's not enough to visualize. Your state of being colors the canvas. That's why some people imagine success daily, but keep attracting chaos. They're still resonating with an inner conflict they haven't faced. Neville Goddard was clear. Imagination creates reality, but it's not just the picture, it's the feeling behind it. When suppressed emotion lingers beneath your assumptions, your inner movie becomes split. You say, "I am abundant," but your body whispers, "I'm not safe." That dissonance confuses the subconscious, and what's planted with confusion rarely bears clean fruit. Imagination is powerful, but only when it's whole. Trying to manifest while ignoring your emotional truth is like rehearsing a play with missing lines. You'll keep stumbling through scenes. The law works, but it mirrors you, not just your vision, but your vibration. And if part of you is still frozen in a past feeling, your reality will echo that until you pause and feel it. Neville Goddard didn't teach wishful thinking. He taught emotional embodiment. He said feeling is the secret, and he meant it literally. Reality responds not to what you say you believe, but to what you feel as true. Your inner state is the root cause. So if there's a split between your words and your felt experience, What manifests is always the one charged with more emotional energy. That's why affirmations sometimes feel like lies. They clash with the unresolved emotion underneath. You can't bypass the state you're actually in. If you're still resisting grief, avoiding insecurity, or masking shame, you're building your life on shaky ground. Neville didn't ignore these truths. He invited us to transform them, because to truly assume the wish fulfilled, your whole being must come along. Feeling isn't a step in the process. It is the process. When you allow yourself to feel honestly, you stop recycling old emotional loops. You begin shifting your inner script. That's when assumption becomes power, not forced but fluid. This is the core of the law of assumption, becoming the new state from the inside out. And for that, you first have to feel what's been in the way. Emotional pain doesn't vanish with time. It stores itself. Like old files on a hard drive, it may not be visible, but it's still running processes in the background. That sharp moment you never fully felt? It became tension in your chest, defensiveness in relationships, hesitation around money. What was once a passing emotion became a permanent filter for how you interpret reality. Think of emotional pain as energy that hasn't completed its cycle. Instead of moving through you, it got stuck, repressed, denied, intellectualized, and from there, it keeps shaping your reactions without permission. You think you're choosing freely, but that unacknowledged wound is pulling strings in silence. It distorts your sense of safety, your assumptions, your entire state of being. This is why people try to manifest love but sabotage intimacy, try to create abundance but fear receiving. The pain says, it's not safe yet, and so the inner state contradicts the outer desire. Neville's teachings show us that conscious creation only works when your whole self is involved. And your whole self includes the parts you've been trying not to feel. Facing a hidden emotion isn't weakness, it's mastery. It takes far more strength to sit with sadness than to pretend it's not there, to feel the anger instead of masking it with politeness, to breathe into the anxiety instead of numbing it with distractions. The real shift begins when you stop trying to fix your outer world and dare to turn inward to where the true work is waiting. Transformation doesn't start with a new technique. It starts with a new level of honesty. Not just, I want to feel better, but here's what I'm really feeling. That level of rawness can be uncomfortable, even scary, but it's the beginning of integration, and without it we stay fragmented, manifesting from the surface while the deeper parts of us pull in a different direction. Feeling what you've avoided doesn't break you, it frees you. When you breathe into grief, shame, or fear without trying to run from it, the emotion begins to dissolve. You stop resisting your state and start transforming it. This is the doorway Neville Goddard hinted at when he said to live in the end, because the end isn't just a scene, it's a state where nothing is left in hiding. Start by sitting quietly and asking yourself, what am I really feeling right now? Not what you should feel, but what's actually alive in you. Let it surface. Is it shame? Is it a fear you've been brushing aside? Before imagining a new reality, honor the current one. Feel the emotion as sensation. Where does it live in your body? Let it be there, without judgment. Then, once the emotion has had space to be seen, bring in your desired scene. Picture yourself already in the state you long for. Calm, free, loved, abundant. But this time, let the feeling come not from fantasy, but from transformation. Overlay the new state like a sunrise breaking through fog. Let the two experiences coexist for a moment, then gently let the old one dissolve into the new. This is not about suppressing the emotion, it's about integrating it. You're not running away from pain, you're walking it into light. Neville's law of assumption becomes potent when the assumption arises from inner wholeness. You assume the wish fulfilled not to escape your feeling, but because you have felt, and you're now choosing a new state with full awareness. That's real conscious creation. You'll know things are shifting when your reactions start changing. The same situation that used to trigger you suddenly feels neutral. Instead of spiraling, you pause. Instead of lashing out, you breathe. That's not luck, that's integration. When you allow yourself to truly feel what was once buried, the charge starts to fade, and your responses become more conscious, more chosen. Externally, things begin to reflect this new inner calm. Conversations get easier. People treat you differently, because you're no longer broadcasting unresolved chaos. Opportunities flow where tension used to block. The law of assumption kicks in more smoothly now because the assumer is no longer split. You're aligned. You're finally manifesting from a clean, congruent inner state. You may also notice life feels lighter, like it's not working against you anymore. There's less drama, less emotional whiplash. And here's the beautiful part. You're not becoming a new person. You're becoming yourself without all the noise. That clarity, it's not just peace, it's power. And it opens the door to something deeper you may not have dared to feel until now. There will be days when it feels raw, when old memories resurface and you wonder, am I going backward? But this isn't regression, it's release. Emotional transparency isn't a straight line. It's messy, sacred, and deeply human. What matters is that you stay, that you don't run when it stings, because the discomfort you feel is the surface cracking, making room for something truer underneath. This is the hidden cost of transformation most people never talk about. Everyone wants the shift, few want the shaking. But Neville's teachings were never about bypassing the human experience. They were about awakening through it. To live in the end isn't just to visualize joy, it's to walk through fire with the faith that you're being refined, not destroyed. The power of assumption grows each time you choose presence over escape. When you keep showing up, even when it hurts, you anchor your new state more deeply into your being. That's how the subconscious accepts it. Not through perfection, but through persistence. Not through control, but through allowing. And right on the other side of that tension lives your actual power. Mastery isn't about controlling your thoughts perfectly. It's about knowing yourself intimately and choosing from truth, not avoidance. What you refuse to feel will always find a way to speak. But once you let it speak, and you listen with presence, it no longer commands you. It becomes energy you can use. Emotion, once honored, turns into clarity, strength, and creative force. This is the true power behind conscious creation. You're not just shifting your reality, you're reclaiming authorship. When you allow every part of yourself to exist in awareness, even the messy ones, you stop being a puppet of your past. You start directing your future. Neville Goddard wasn't teaching surface-level manifesting. He was handing you the keys to inner dominion. So feel it all. Name it. Breathe into it. Let it rise and pass. Because once you master your emotional world, the external world becomes clay in your hands. You're not just imagining the end. You're living from it. Not as a performance, but as someone who knows who they are, what they carry, and what they choose to become next. You've seen now, it's not the technique that shapes your reality. It's the truth you carry inside while applying it. So let me ask you, what feeling have you been avoiding? What emotion keeps rising beneath the surface but never gets your full attention? Because until you feel it, it's leading your life. Neville Goddard didn't teach manifestation as a way to escape pain. He taught it as a way to transform through it. Your power begins where your avoidance ends. The version of you that lives in the end, that feels whole, confident, abundant, is not somewhere far away. It's behind one honest breath, one moment of courageous awareness. If this message touched something in you, don't let it be just another video. Let it be a turning point. And if you want to keep going deeper into Neville Goddard's teachings, mindset rewiring and spiritual awakening, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. This is just the beginning.